Welcome back, everyone. This is Dave from Core Productions with my co-host Stacie here to talk about the original Quantum Leap, Season 5, Episode 9, titled Trilogy, Part 2. The episode's description reads as follows. Sam leaps back into the life of Abigail Fuller, this time as her fiancé, who must save her when she again is suspected of a killing. The episode was written by Deborah Pratt for the second time in this trilogy, and of course she will write the final episode of the trilogy as well. The episode was directed by James Whitmore Jr., who, of course, also directed the previous episode and will direct the closing chapter of this trilogy. The episode takes place on June 14th, 1966, close to 11 years after the last leap, and originally aired on November 24th, 1992. Before going further, I'll tell you a couple of things. One, this is not a spoiler-free podcast, so if you haven't watched the episode, I highly recommend you go and check it out, and then come back and give us a listen. Secondly, if you're listening on one of the platforms that this podcast is now available on, please follow. And feel free to check out my YouTube channel, Core Productions, where additional content can be discovered, both Quantum Leap related and otherwise. If you're already on our YouTube channel, please like, share, and comment, and subscribe to the channel. All right, so some shout-outs this week. Mimi Gallup made a couple of comments. I forgot to take note of what they actually were because I've had a really bad last couple of days. And Doctor Who, also known as Bob Smith, proposed a theory that Violet's death actually took place outside of Sam's lifetime. And I think that's actually a very plausible theory because the last episode was November 8th, 1955, making Sam about 2 years old.
August 8th.
August 8th,
it
right.
was his actual
right, his actual birthday. So if it were 2 years before, and maybe, give a couple of days, then it's outside of his lifetime.
Right.
So it's quite possible that's the case. So he couldn't save Violet.
Or maybe Violet died the moment he was born.
Oh, perhaps.
Maybe that's why he's so tangled up with these people.
Maybe. And I think
he's Violet.
Yeah, perhaps. Maybe that was a reincarnation. Also, I think there was no saving Bart. He was probably going to die of a heart attack regardless. So there was probably no saving him. And so the idea... Oh, okay. So as a offshoot of this,
okay.
After realizing the realizations I made last week, thanks to you, that Laura was actually in the fire and in the scene that we saw, that I thought she was a ghostly image, I had questions about the original timeline because
I was going to bring that up today.
Yes. Okay.
Okay.
So I have a theory, one that actually somewhat fixes your one of your beefs from last episode.
Okay.
All right, so the theory is that Sam actually changed events to create the fire, and thus the reason why they were not able to find that information originally is because that's not what happened in the original timeline. And once Sam got here, he was on a path to create that situation because the two motivating things that ended up resulting in that fire: one, the scene with Abigail and Sam, the picnic. Right.
Yeah.
She would not have had the same conversation with Clayton Fuller that she had
right, because
with Sam.
Clayton
right.
knows the things that Sam didn't know and was pushing to find out.
Right. And so Lita would not have heard the same things, so
right.
she might not have been motivated to go to the house
or
originally.
to do something different.
The only reason that Laura was there is because Sam visited and talked about her burning...
Right, because she heard Sam and Al talking about... the fact that Abigail was about to die in a fire, so she went there to help. Yes,
so those were the two people that caused the fire in the first place. So they have no reason to do that if Sam doesn't do what he does. So I think that Sam actually changed the time. Something else probably was going to happen to Abigail, but instead this fire thing happened.
That makes sense.
Yeah, that's my theory anyway.
I'm trying to remember exactly when in the episode we were told about the fire.
Well, it was definitely before the picnic.
Okay, so that's a little...
Well, what I'm saying...
But he was already on the course to do that.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, okay. I guess that kind of fixes what I had to say today, too.
Okay.
Which I don't have in my notes. It was just kind of in my head today, was... basically the same thing, but from the other direction.
Right.
Which was, well... if the only reason Laura went there was because Sam told her Abigail's going to die in a fire, how did we already know Abigail was going to die in a fire?
Right, exactly.
But I guess, you could say that the whole course of events was inevitable once Sam started that trajectory.
Right, yes.
As opposed to each thing had to play out in its entirety before it came to pass.
Usually that's how the series plays it.
Right.
Like things aren't changed until Sam actually does the thing that changes things. But yeah, that's the only plot explanation I can come up with.
Okay.
And so, yeah.
So if, the fire didn't happen before Sam leaped in, I wonder what did happen.
Exactly. I'm not really clear on what the original timeline was.
Abigail's life, I assume, was still in jeopardy. Or maybe it wasn't. Maybe she actually wasn't supposed to die.
Right.
And that's the reason he keeps coming back to save her life, is because
she
wasn't supposed to die in the first place.
So he screwed things up when leaping in there?
Maybe.
Yeah.
And by the time they had an idea, she was on trajectory to die.
Mm-hmm.
But maybe in the original history, she didn't.
Yeah, okay.
Maybe he was there to do something completely unrelated to saving her life.
And it said he caused this clusterfucky situation.
Maybe he really was there to, prove Bart died innocently.
Maybe.
And kind of didn't do that at all.
Right. Yeah, in fact, he's the one who's raising the questions in the first place about whether he was murdered or not, because he's the one who suggested right off the bat, like, hey, was this caused after or during? So he's the one that asked the question.
Doc Kidman brought it all up too, though.
Yeah, of course.
But I don't know. It's interesting.
Mm-hmm. All right, so Stacie, your thoughts on this week's episode?
Okay, so of course we're right in the middle of Trilogy, and it's hard for me to talk about Trilogy separately, my feelings for it. But as I said last week, of the three, this is my least favorite. And I do think that comes down to we're missing Kimberly Cullum.
Mm-hmm.
So we lost Kimberly Cullum. We replaced her with Melora Hardin, which I love her too. Great addition. And it's going to be okay because next week we're going to get both of them.
Right, exactly.
So they're both going to be in the next episode, which is pretty awesome. Yeah, watching it this time, I was a little, taken back. Some things in my memory were a little different. I could have swore we saw the Tackins boy at some point, and we don't ever see him.
No, not once.
Not an image of him at all. And I feel like I remember seeing him, and the whole thing with the red sweater, and, the place where he's found, and we don't see anything like that.
Nope.
So, on one side, I feel like that's really good storytelling. That I kind of have memories for things that don't really happen just because they describe them so well that I implanted them in my brain. When you read a book and you make up these scenes. Yeah. And it's kind of like that, I think. Mm-hmm. Also, I really appreciated, as we're diving in right now, like we do, just some of the little details, which I think I knew all of them before, but to really
look at it,
look at them, to take notes on them, it's wow, this story is so all the little details, all the characters, they mention Sherry Lynn in this episode, who we don't meet till next episode. Mm-hmm. The whole Tackins family, which of course we didn't meet last episode, but their name was there.
Yes.
Just all these it's a very beautiful story. Mm-hmm. And which I knew that already.
Right.
But taking notes, it's I can take better appreciation of just this little line of dialogue here and this little look there and how it all plays together. And again, that's what I said I love about this, is that you do have to put all three episodes together to get the full story.
Actually, what's funny is that Trilogy 2 and Trilogy 3 aired the same night.
Yeah.
Back-to-back episodes.
I did see that.
And I do remember that.
I find that a weird choice that they did that. Because they called it Trilogy. The official name of the episodes is Trilogy. Yeah. So they knew it was in 3 parts. Right. And then they aired one separate and then the other 2 together. Right. It feels like a weird choice. But that definitely feels more like a network decision than a writer's room decision.
Oh, I'm sure that's the case.
I'm curious why they did that.
Right. Yeah, I'm not sure. But yeah, that's what they ended up doing. I do remember watching both episodes as they aired back to back. And it's funny because I remember the promo for this episode that has Al's line, looks like there's going to be a witch hunt in it. I remember that specifically as a kid and thinking that there was actually going to be a literal witch hunt. But
you'll get that in 2023.
Yeah. Yep. So this is a decent middle chapter. Maura Harding is great. It's funny because she seems better than when she was a kid, but there's still kind of this edge of not being fully together. A little bit.
Adult Abigail is a little full of herself. Yeah. And really, she always was. Yeah. But you ignored that when she was a kid because she was a kid. Mm-hmm.
there's an air of unstableness in her performance that I do enjoy. That kind of carries over from when she was a kid, played by Kimberly McCullough.
Kimberly Cullum.
Cullum, that's right.
Yeah, you think about Abigail's life, right? So she's 11 years old.
Yes.
She's basically an orphan. Like, she has a mother, but her mother's institutionalized.
Well, that's the other thing is...
Not raising her.
So, I mean, it suggests here that Marie took over raising her.
Right, she was raised by Marie, who was hired help.
Right. In 1955, a black woman taking charge of a 10-year-old kid. I'm actually surprised that was even allowed, to be honest.
It's a small town.
Yeah.
You know?
I mean, I guess what were you going to do with her at that point?
It's not like modern times where, like,
right.
the government's going to come in and you've got, you know, child protective services.
Right.
It's just like, yeah, here's a kid. Somebody's got to raise her.
Right. Marie's as good as a person as any.
And, I mean, the fact that Laura's not technically dead probably plays into that, right?
Gotcha.
She was kind of off the radar
right.
as being, like, she wasn't technically an orphan.
Gotcha.
She just didn't have anybody to actually take care of her.
Right.
Except for Marie, and my goodness.
Yeah.
Like, this was Marie's job. She worked for the family for 30 years.
It's interesting because,
And now, okay, not only is she out of work, no one's paying her anymore, but now
right.
she's literally raising the child.
Right. And you know what's really funny is that there's not even a suggestion of racism towards Marie in the first couple episodes. There is one in the final episode of this trilogy. It's like a random one, but other than that, there's not like any of that directed at Marie whatsoever in these 3 episodes.
Well, the town was too busy, you know, having problems.
Trying to have
having problems with Abigail and Laura.
Trying to burn her at the stake.
Yeah.
Yeah. So do we have anything else to say before diving in?
One interesting thing is, so the first episode, Sam leaped in on his birthday.
Yes.
This episode, June 14th, is the day before Al's birthday.
Oh, okay. That is interesting.
The next day, which is the wedding, the hanging, that day was actually Al's birthday.
Oh, okay.
The day that, you know, Sammy Jolie's conceived.
Gotcha.
Was on Al's birthday.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah, we have links to both of their birthdays. I wonder if the third date is any significance to anybody. I don't think we have any other dates of significance to use.
No. Nope. So, yeah.
But in either episode, did they ever mention either of their birthdays?
Right, yeah. They're like, oh, hey, it's my birthday. All right, diving in.
The other thing I want to talk about is ages.
Ages, yes. So that actually does come up.
We know ages now.
Yes.
And I wanted to bring it back also to the Golden Girls ages. Because I was throwing numbers out of my head last week. I decided to look them up. It wasn't as bad as I was saying.
Okay,
so let's start with the Golden Girls real quick, and then we can talk about our actual characters' ages. So I was thinking that, they were in their 40s.
Yeah.
I was wrong. They're in their early to mid 50s.
Okay. That I can deal with.
It's a little better, right?
Yeah.
Still, like, the same thing, though. I mean, I've said this before, you know, a decade in either direction's the same age, right?
Yeah, basically.
So when the Golden Girls started, Sophia, the mother, was 79.
All right.
Blanche and Dorothy were both 53, and Rose was 55.
See, okay, I could see that. Well, you were telling me they're like 40 years old. I'm like, no
in their 40s, 53. Yeah. I mean, give or take. Now, the actors, Estelle Getty, and of course, I'm pretty sure this is a very well-known fact, they aged her up for the role of Sophia. She was actually only 62, playing the 79-year-old. The other actresses were older. Well, okay, so Rue McClanahan, let's see, her character was 53. She was 51, so she was actually a little bit older than her character. But Betty White and Bea Arthur were both 63, portraying a 53 and a 55-year-old. So they were a decade older than their characters were.
Gotcha.
Which I guess is why you feel like they're older, because they were.
Right.
So it wasn't just teenagers being portrayed by 30-year-olds. We have to have 50-year-olds portrayed by 60-year-olds.
Right. Gotcha.
So it's the perpetuation of that whole casting older than the characters thing.
You know what's funny?
Will.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And I think you said the actor was 24 last week?
Yes.
The actor who plays Will?
Yeah.
Travis Fiennes.
Playing 15, or actually not even that. He was playing a 16-year-old.
So, last week we were confused about his age. They said it very clearly. He is 20...
7.
27
Yeah.
at the time of the wedding, which means he was about 16, give or
Right.
take when his birthday happens to be.
Mm-hmm.
So he was about 16, a little bit older than I had placed him.
Yes.
But still, I think that's not too weird.
I mean, some people consider that, given the fact that they knew each other when she was 10, that changes the equation a little bit.
In a small town,
yes,
especially in the 50s,
you made this.
You know everybody,
right?
The people you grow up with are the only people you're ever going to know in your life,
right?
So yes, everybody knew everybody when they were a kid.
Mm-hmm.
You can't get around that,
right? And yeah, so Abigail here is 21. 21 and 27 is not that big of an age difference when you get to this point. It doesn't make a difference. You know what's funny about the Golden Girls, though? Is I used to have these 3 customers that one of them was a dead ringer for Estelle Getty, and I nicknamed them the Golden Girls. And one by one, they passed away. Now it was down to 2 of them, and then 1 of them, and then none of them came back.
How sad.
I know, it was sad. I was there long enough to watch people die of my customers. Anyway, on that downer note, anything else to say?
Let's jump into it.
All right. So Sam leaps into the middle of a love-making situation with... he doesn't yet know that the girl involved is Abigail Fuller. She's played now by Laura Harding, as we mentioned. 120 credits for her, including 10 episodes of Monk, the movie Absolute Power, an episode of Lois and Clark, and many other things.
She was in 6 episodes of A Million Little Things.
Mm-hmm, yes.
She played, I forget the girl's name, her mother.
Okay.
She was in 52 episodes of The Bold Type.
Okay.
Which is a ABC Family teen drama. She was the boss in that. And 42 episodes of The Office.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, Melora Hardin is still working.
Yes.
I just saw a movie within the last year with her in it. I forget the name of that one, but she's still working. And this is something I saw discussed a lot with the revival series: is should they have brought back Sammy Jo? And if they were going to bring her back, who would play her?
Right.
And I always had Melora needs to play Sammy Jo.
Gotcha.
I'm pretty confident the reason we didn't get a Sammy Jo appearance is because, of course, Deborah Pratt has something else in mind for the character.
Right. Now,
which is still, not impossible, probably pretty improbable at this point. But if we ever do get a project with Sammy Jo, it has to be Melora.
All right.
I'm sticking to it. I've argued this point with people all over the internet.
Well, what are other people arguing it should be?
Some people said Kimberly Cullum.
Okay.
Who's not acting anymore.
No.
And is 30 years too young to play the part.
Yeah. Yeah.
Melora's the perfect choice, though, because Melora was actually born the same year as Sammy Jo.
Okay.
Which would have been, at the beginning of 1967.
All right.
They were both born in 1967. She's the exact right age to play Sammy Jo.
All right.
And we know Sammy Jo looks identical to her mother.
Yes.
So it makes perfect sense.
It does. Okay.
That's my pitch.
All right.
So yeah.
I'm
Deborah, you ever get it? Get Melora on board.
Okay.
She's still acting. She could totally do it.
Yeah, absolutely. So they are soon interrupted by Marie Billings, who yells at them and rants at them that the wedding is tomorrow. She specifically calls him Will Kinman, a name that Sam recognizes. And when she comes back threatening to throw him out naked, reveals to Sam who he's sleeping with. And of course, that's Abigail.
Yeah, and so when she said Will Kidman, we got something that was added that wasn't in the Leap Out, which was he had a flashback scene of seeing Will. So it's showing us, right, visually that Sam remembers who Will Kidman is. And then when she says Abigail Fuller, Sam finally gets the picture, and he's like, oh.
Right, yeah.
Of course, this is Fran Bennett reprising the role of Marie Billings.
Yep. Abigail says that she will only let that happen, Sam leave, because after tomorrow, he'll be with her forever. Makes him promise as much, but Sam says that he promises Will Kidman will be with her forever, which is the promise that he does not manage to keep.
No, but I do find it interesting that he continues to not make promises of himself.
Yes.
That he can't keep. He refuses to say, I'll never leave you.
Right.
Which is something Sam's always very careful to do. He
right.
wants to be honest.
Mm-hmm.
But by saying, Will Kidman will never leave you, well, that's wrong.
Right, yes, unfortunately.
But his promise last week of, I will be here as long as you need me, he's still keeping that.
Yes, he is. Marie finally kicks him out without a shirt on, which is better than what she was originally threatening him with. Abigail ends up shouting out the window, only wearing a sheet, that she loves Will Kinman. Marie angrily closes the window, asking if she wants the whole town to know what a wicked child she is. And, oh, by the way, the town already thinks badly of her in the first place, so what difference does it make? But she says she isn't wicked and she is not a child. And tomorrow she will be Deputy Will Kinman's wife. It's interesting that Will became a deputy and didn't follow in his own father's footsteps and become a doctor.
Well, we know he had a problem with bodies.
Gotcha.
So that's probably not a good step.
No.
But remember, he was hanging out at the sheriff's station a lot.
Yes, yeah.
So it probably wasn't even that long after the fact, Clayton died. We know Bo became the sheriff, and he needed a deputy.
Yeah, it makes sense.
So this is probably the only job he's ever had, short of, just helping his dad out.
Right, of course. So Marie changes her attitude and celebrates in her happiness as Abigail falls into her bed happy. Sam walks at night past the sheriff's office, talking and stuttering to himself, remembering the events of the fire.
Yeah, for no good reason. He's talking out loud to himself instead of having his usual internal monologue.
Right, yes. Sam asks why he's back here. Al appears 8 minutes and 26 seconds into the episode. Al gives him crap for talking to himself. Sam brings up the fact that Clayton Fuller is in fact dead. Sam is almost embarrassed to tell Al the situation he leaped into. Al already knows it, of course. He has some residual of Will left in him, which is why he's stuttering. Sam gushes about Abigail, and Al tells him to slow down, cowboy. He knows he leaked in intimate circumstances, but he is not Will Kinman.
Yeah, now do you think that Sam falling for Abigail the way he did, was this because he has residuals of Will?
I think that's quite possible.
Or is it something else?
You think?
Is it Sam actually falling for Abigail?
Could go, well, I mean, okay, so eventually...
We know later he definitely does, and he says Will's gone.
Yes.
But...
Right.
Does he have these feelings because Will has these feelings?
I'm not totally sure.
Because we're definitely being like, oh yeah, Will's there. We got the stutter.
Right.
We have some of that residual, like he's picking up stuff from his host.
Sure, but at the same time...
Or is it like because he slept with her and that's just Sam's, nature? He's going to fall in love with her now.
I mean, I think that's a good explanation as any. I think that's typical to Sam's character, for sure. All right, so Sam is... Oh, yeah, okay. Where am I going? Okay, Al tells him... Oh, yeah. Abigail's actual age is 21, and Will is actually 27, making him about 16 in Trilogy Part 1. Al says he needs to get him out of there when he starts talking about getting married tomorrow. Al tells him to stay away from Abigail. How the hell is he going to do that?
Yeah, it's also a very un-Al-like thing to say.
Right. Yeah. I don't know. Anytime that, Sam ends up in these situations where he's, about to sleep with somebody or really interested in someone, Al is, suddenly turns into a prude that he never actually is. And I don't understand it. But, okay, so, Al tells him to stay away, but, except for the fact that he's going to get married the next day, which Al, of course, knows. And we see him the next day, and his mirror image, played by Travis Fiennes for the final time in his trilogy. I don't think we see him again. Actually, I think we do actually see him in a flashback, the one with W.K. Stratton in it.
Yeah, and this is something else I was thinking about, is how you were saying the actor's 24. Which made it a good fit to be able to use the same actor, both as the teenage Will and the mirror image Will.
Right. Abigail comes in saying how she knows it's bad luck to see him before the wedding, but she doesn't think anything bad is ever going to happen to them. Famous last words.
Yeah, she doesn't believe in bad luck. Maybe you should?
Yeah.
Have you been here?
Right,
have you witnessed your life and your family at all?
Right. So Marie comes in, and Abigail says she doesn't believe in bad luck. Cue Sheriff Bo coming in to throw some cold water on her happiness because there's some trouble brewing. Al shows up to say it looks like there's going to be a witch hunt on their hands, which is the line from the trailer that I remember. The Taken's boy, Purvis, is missing, and Abigail was the last person to see him. Sam says she was with him last night. Al tells him to watch it. Be careful. 1966 in a small southern town. Sam ignores him and repeats it even stronger that she was with him last night. She sat for purpose till 9:30 and then was paid, and then she left.
Yeah, now Marie is very quick to stand up for Abigail's honor.
Yeah.
To say, well, he left at midnight.
Right.
In other words, like, nothing bad happened.
Right.
I was with them. Everything was cool.
Right. Purvis got upset because he was jealous of marrying Will. Al thinks he ran away. Bo thinks they should get across the street to talk to the parents. Abigail talks about her wedding, but Bo suggests they need to put her personal life on the shelf to figure things out. And by the way, once again, I am going to say that I do really like Sheriff Bo, played by Stephen Lee, once again, because he's not taking sides here. He's not assuming guilt or innocence. He's just doing his job. I wish I had seen Stephen Lee in more things because he's a charming actor. But anyway, Marie says that she better start believing in bad luck because it believes in her. Sam tells Abigail they're going to find the boy and then get married. What they know is from what Al knows is from a letter that Will wrote the Gazette. The situation turns into a mob. They tried to hang Abigail, but in the frenzy, she was instead shot in the back.
Yeah, so what difference does that make? Either way, she's dead.
I kind of prefer to be shot than hung.
They're both pretty bad.
Yeah, I don't know.
She's dead either way.
Yes.
So yeah, remember the town's records burned down in the 70s.
Yes.
Or flood.
It was a flood. It is mentioned later in the episode.
I keep conflating this with the other episode where something similar happened. So because of that is why we only know about this because of a letter Will wrote. And I have something to say about that later.
Okay, so in the sheriff's office, talking to Purvis's parents, Mrs. Taken is played by Wendy Robbie. 35 credits for her, including Twin Peaks and its revival series, and I believe another Twin Peaks project.
So she played Nadine in Twin Peaks. She was in all of the Twin Peaks properties. She was in the original movie, 22 episodes of the series. She was in the movie Fire Walk with Me. She was in the Missing Pieces special, and then she also reprised the role for 5 episodes of the
new series, the revival.
The revival, yeah.
She was also in People Under the Stairs. Very weird and odd movie.
You covered that one, didn't you?
No.
Oh, I thought you did.
But yeah, it's a pretty strange movie.
I heard that they're trying to make a remake of that. I don't think that's a good idea.
No. I don't think remakes in general are...
Most of them aren't.
No. And also an episode of Star Trek Deep Space Nine.
It's funny, our credits lined up perfectly on that one.
Mr. Takens is played by Christopher Curry. 86 credits for him, including Sully, Bye Bye Love, and an episode of Babylon 5.
He also was in 13 episodes of Heart of Dixie, an episode of Star Trek Voyager, and 2 episodes of Jag. And Mr. Taken's first name is Don. We heard that in this conversation, but he's only credited as Mr. Takens.
Oh, yeah?
But they gave him a first name in the script. His name is Don. I find it so weird when they do that.
Yeah.
Like, why are they not given the credit for the actual name they're given in the script?
I do not know. The mom is hostile towards Abigail, and it's revealed that Purvis had a crush on Abigail, and she was his only friend. Sam tries to cool things down, including trying to cool his own wife down. Mr. Takens reveals that Abigail is right, that he had no friends, and Sam starts to ask questions, including if they searched the house, until Bo is basically like, wow, I've never seen you, so take charge, Will. Alright, so I generally like Bo. This little moment here where he's kind of patronizing to Will, I don't really like.
Well, because remember, Will is
a
kid.
I know. Oh, yeah, he's 27 at this point.
Yeah,
he's not 15.
We just said he's probably worked there, the whole time.
Yeah.
And I think he's just being honest. Like, Will doesn't do this.
Gotcha.
Will doesn't ever get involved in anything, probably.
Yeah. But then he re-asked the question, and of course, yes, they have searched the house. Mrs. Takens continues to be hostile to Abigail, and Sam suggests that they go back to the house, see if there's any of their favorite things are missing. They specifically mention some kind of sweater.
Okay, so there's a sweater that Abigail bought Purvis, and Mrs. Takens just like, threw that away.
Right.
And Mr. Takens just says, well, actually, he asked me to get it out of the trash for him, and he has it hidden away from you, so you don't know that he has it.
So this attitude that Mrs. Takens has towards Abigail, if they felt this way about her, why did they even employ her?
Exactly. She seems to have such a problem with Abigail.
Right.
Later, she'll be talking about how Abigail's crazy, like her whole family.
Right.
If you don't trust this woman with your child,
right.
why is she your babysitter?
I mean, exactly, yeah.
The other thing during this scene is we learned that they found out this morning Purvis was missing because he didn't come down to breakfast.
Gotcha.
You came home at 8:30 at night. Your kid's asleep.
9:30, but yes.
Either way, 9:30 at night. Your kid's asleep upstairs. You never once checked on him?
Right.
You don't know until breakfast the next morning that he's missing?
Yeah.
They never looked in on him once.
Nope.
Like, how?
Right.
Do you not check on your child?
Mm-hmm. All right. So
your 7-year-old child.
Right.
Like, this isn't a teenager. He's
right.
7.
Yes. So the Takens take off and leave. Abigail continues to ask about her wedding. Bo suggests she stop thinking about herself and think about the little boy. Abigail bemoans why this is happening again. Bo leaves the scene to give Sam a moment because they're going to start doing the search. That it's Violet all over again. And Sam ends up spotting Lita Ader and goes off about how she started the fire and tried to kill her.
Right, because Sam's just remembering all this.
Right.
Right, because he hasn't really processed the fire yet.
Right.
It just happened for him.
Abigail basically just wants to drop it, but Sam insists. Yeah, so Sam wants to keep going with it. Sam insists that they will make it. They will find the boy and have a beautiful wedding. They kiss, and she confesses that last night that it didn't feel right at the start. But then something changed, and he was different. And she tells him that they fit, and that she loves him. They kiss again until Sam is called to get moving by Bo.
This isn't good news for Will.
No.
She's like, yeah, I was thinking I was having cold feet and doubts here, but all of a sudden, you were different.
Right.
You felt right. And,
yeah.
Oops. Guess things aren't going to work out with Will.
Nope. She asks him to come to her that night, no matter what time. Al takes this conversation and means that she knows she was with Sam and not Will. Of course, she does not actually know that. She might sense the difference, but I don't think she can't obviously know who Sam Beckett is at this point. He informs him that the boy is found 11 a.m. the next day, but this is after Abigail is shot. Sam wants Al to go and talk to Will in the waiting room, and basically Al's like, this is not the most clearest person that we've ever had in the waiting room. But Al suggests that they do that, and to find out what happened to Lita Ader. I'm not sure why Sam wants to have that information specifically at this point, but Sam walks with Larry Stanton, who's part of the search party. Larry Stanton, once again, played by W.K. Stratton. Lita Ader is giving out water, which Sam does not initially notice, and when he does, he is not happy to see her.
And Lita Ader, reprised by Mary Gordon Murray.
Mm-hmm. And she insists that Abigail is cursed. The whole Lanchette family was cursed. She's convinced that Abigail is going to get the chair. Sam accuses her of killing Clayton Fuller, but she insists that she didn't set the fire and to go ask Laura what happened. Which, when I originally saw this episode 30 years later, I thought this was a lie, that Laura was not actually there. This is just a way for Lita to throw Sam off the scent of what actually happened. But now I know this is actually the truth of the matter.
Right.
But yeah, Lita is pretty smug in this moment, saying, go ask Laura. So.
And we also got whole nother generation from the Lanchette family. She mentions another person. She mentions Teresa. So she said it was Teresa, then Retta.
Right.
And then, of course, Laura, and now Abigail. So we added a whole nother generation to the women that they think is crazy. Maybe this does go all the way back to witches.
Maybe, perhaps. Maybe they were actually, had some, hangings and witch burnings back in their family as well. So Sam decides to go and see Laura. She's laying in bed with bandages. Didn't initially know why 30 years ago. I do now. But why is she still wearing bandages?
Okay, so looking at it, it's not like bandages as in you're healing. It's just like
covering,
wraps.
basically.
She's
Gotcha.
wrapped up to hide, like to just cover it.
Okay. She asks if Abigail is with her.
Oh, and she's humming Mockingbird, by the way.
Yes, which is a theme that plays throughout the trilogy. She hasn't been to see her in a while. Laura asks if she would bring her flowers. Sam tries to get her to remember what happened tonight, specifically about the fire.
Yeah, he means the fire, but he's like, I want you to remember what happened that night.
Right.
How the frick is she supposed to know which night you're talking about?
Right.
They've had so many crazy nights in this family.
Yes.
You kind of need to be more specific, I think.
Right. And so she starts humming some more. And once again, mockingbird or whatever. She says they all died, and they think that she's talking about something completely different from what she's talking about. And she starts talking about her siblings. Laura says it wasn't her mom's fault. She was just so sad. And Sam continues to ask about her mother. I don't know why. Why are you not...
What's the truth?
Sure, but why aren't you redirecting the conversation to what you actually came here to talk about?
Because we, the audience, needs to hear this creepy story about what actually happened with the Lanchette family.
Okay, fine enough. So she fell into the crack in her bed, thought it was raindrops under her bed when it was actually blood. And of course,
this is a hauntingly beautiful, creepy story.
Yes, and this little performances here is why you get Meg Foster to play this role, because who else are you going to get to do it?
Yeah. So let's see. There was Cassie, Taylor, Sadie, Bobby, Mary Lou, and Jessie. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 6 siblings died. So she was the 7th that lived.
Gotcha.
That's crazy.
So she says he's going to protect Abigail now. That's why he came back. And Al points out that she knows that she isn't Will, and she probably also sees Al, because she did it originally too. But she makes no indication of that. And then she starts humming the Mockingbird song. She's pretty much done at this point. This is the equivalent of Tell Me All the Ways That You Love Me from Abigail back in the day. Al tells him he needs to get back into town and to guard Abigail. Okay, this part of this scene confused me because I was really not sure what Sam was arguing for at this point. But Sam says he can't. Al is confused. Sam asks, why is he really there? And Al says he's there to save Abigail. It's a leap like any other. And Sam admits that he's in trouble. He can't think of anything but holding her. And Al's looking really uncomfortable during all this. And Al says, what matters is he's Sam Beckett, and it's his job to save her. He says, it's not fair. Al says, life isn't fair. And Sam asks, why him? And Al says, because he's a hero. And Sam says, even heroes are human. And he leaves. And, this scene kind of feels like a retread of, similar moments in the past. I'm thinking specifically The Leap Home Part 1, where he has a similar meltdown scene. But I don't know what Sam is even arguing for here.
Okay, so he wants Abigail so bad, but he doesn't want to go to her because he knows he shouldn't. So he wants to avoid her. But also he knows he has to go to her to protect her. And he's upset that he shouldn't be with her. Mm-hmm. He wants to just live here and live happily ever after. And he's like, why do I have this curse of I'm the one who has to just come save people and then leave them? And he doesn't want to leave.
That's a lot of subtext. That's definitely not in the text, that's for sure.
Do you disagree?
No, that's a good take. So Sam runs to Abigail. They kiss and engage in carnal activities. Sam, meanwhile, later that night, is sleeping peacefully. When people break in, they end up knocking Sam out.
A mob led by Lita Ader.
Yes. Yep. And basically, Sam is knocked unconscious. Al appears to be the unconscious Sam and says that he changed history. Will was with her in the original history, and they didn't lynch her. But now he's not there. In the original history, he got shot. So.
Right. It's the same. Is this really worse?
Right, yeah.
Either way, she gonna die if you don't stop the whole thing.
Right. So we cut to the mob. Lita is calling for justice.
Oh, okay, this is where I have a problem. Gushy says that she has 12 minutes.
Okay, yes.
So
the time frame is totally whacked here.
How do they know the exact time that this happens, when the only reason they know what happened at all is a letter that Will wrote to a newspaper?
Right. Yeah.
There's no town records. There's no death certificate.
Right.
All the records were destroyed.
Mm-hmm.
All they know is a newspaper article based on a letter Will wrote saying that she was killed tonight.
Maybe in that letter he specifically wrote the exact time that she was hung.
The exact time?
Exact time, down to the minute.
Also, Will's not here to write that letter.
Right, of course. So that letter doesn't exist anymore.
It doesn't exist, but we know the history changed.
Right.
How do we know the history changed?
Yeah.
Because there is no letter if Will's not here experiencing it to write the letter.
Right.
Will didn't send that letter this time around.
Maybe Stanton wrote it.
Maybe.
Yeah.
But the fact that we know 12 minutes, I have a problem with that.
Okay.
And then in my very next paragraph, we'll keep going.
So Al tries to wake him up. Al tells Gushy to center him on Abigail and to go and to find a kid, which they already should have been working on, but whatever. He appears to the mob, and things are not looking good there. Al returns to Sam and manages to wake him up. Al fills him in, and he notices that Sam is not stuttering anymore. He says once he was with her, there was nothing left of Will, just him and Abigail.
And in this scene, Al says that they now have 9 minutes and 15.3 seconds.
Wow, he specifically says it down to the
he says
second?
That.
Wow.
Down to the point second. So I had a problem with 12 minutes.
Right.
So you know I got a problem with 9 minutes and 15.3 seconds. You know down to the microsecond.
Actually, by the time you
when Abigail's going to die.
By the time you finish the sentence, you're already, past the microsecond.
Even if you have the official records,
right,
you're not going to know down to the microsecond.
Right.
But you don't have the official records. You have some newspaper article that shouldn't exist anymore either because the guy who sent it's not here.
Right.
So how do you know with that much detail of what is going to happen?
Right. Yeah, that's silly. So Sam leaves to go save Abigail, and Al, at Sam's insistence, goes to see what's going on with Abigail. Meanwhile, Larry Stanton arrives and tells him...
Being Abigail's hero.
Yes. Tells him to let the woman go and argues against this course of action. He wants Abigail handed over to him, or he will file attempted murder charges against every one of them. And I'm kind of curious if that happened in the original timeline, if Larry made due on that threat.
Yeah, maybe he is the one who wrote the letter in that history.
Mm-hmm.
But either way, it wouldn't be down on the microsecond.
Right. Al seems to be good. All seems to be good until someone knocks out Stanton, and the hanging of Abigail proceeds. Sam arrives, fighting his way to Abigail. Mr. Takins ends up holding a gun on him. Sam argues with Lita about giving him more time and letting the justice system deal with it. He tells them that Purpose is still alive, and Sam says to give him 5 hours, and if they don't find them, Sam will turn them over to them. And of course, Abigail is not thrilled with this.
She's not having this plan. She's
right.
like, what are you doing?
Right. So Mr. Takins ends up switching sides, not wanting the murder of this woman on his conscience. And because he doesn't have the same issues with Abigail that Mrs. Takins has. Asks him if he knows where his son is, and Al gets an approximate location, and Mr. Takins asks how Sam knows this. Sam says, if he's found, does it really matter?
Kind of does, though.
Yeah.
Because that's awful suspicious that you actually know exactly where he's at.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, that's a thing.
Yeah. So Sam and Abigail wait till they get back. And Lita tries to grab the gun, but it's wrestled away from her. In fact, I think it's wrestled away from her by Don, Mr. Takins.
Yes.
And then she lies on the ground and she says, she killed my boy. Who is she talking about? Because she did not, unless she's talking about Bart.
I think, I noticed that.
Yeah.
And I was confused too. Yeah. I did notice that.
Unless it was like just a screw up in the script and it was like originally supposed to be a boy and they changed it to a girl.
I was wondering if that line was supposed to go to Mrs. Takins originally.
Okay.
But it was definitely Lita who said it.
Yes.
And yeah, it was her daughter and her husband who she's blaming Abigail for killing.
Right.
Yeah.
So that moment was a little bit confusing. Sam and Abigail embrace. Al declares it's over. Sam says he doesn't have a lot of time. He tells that to Abigail. He tells her he loves her, no matter what he might say in the future. In this brief moment in time, they belong to each other. And then Sam ends up weeping. We see Sam weeping into him sitting down reading a newspaper.
The Baton Rouge Gazette, which is dated July 28th, 1978. 12 more years in the future.
Yes. And basically, he somehow knows that it's not over. That
he
Abigail's...
says, I'm still in Louisiana.
Yeah.
And I'm in the South, and I just can feel it, that Abigail has summoned me back again.
Yes.
He goes, but for what? And as who?
Yeah, he looks in the mirror and he realizes that he's leapt into Larry Stanton. Larry Stanton's final appearance in this series, in the trilogy, and in the series in general, is going to be as a mirror image, as the person that he's leapt into, which I think is kind of fitting, actually. But it's kind of a shame that we don't actually see W.K. Stratton, because he's kind of a fun character actor. But his wife comes to seduce him, and I have things to say about that next week. And Sam says, oh boy, and that is where the episode ends.
Now, about Sherry Lynn Stanton, we did learn in this episode when Sam was walking with Larry that she's got a problem with Abigail. His line was something along the lines of, I don't want to. I hope we find the boy because I don't want to give Sherry Lynn anything else to gossip about Abigail about.
Right.
So she's anti-Abigail.
Okay.
Which is interesting to think about next week.
Yeah. Okay.
When we talk about, Larry ending up taking this case and they don't live in town anymore and he's going to go travel to help Abigail.
And I'm sure that's the reason why he did not take the case originally.
Was because his wife was so against Abigail.
Yeah.
Let's see. We had two other actors in this episode. The townswoman, she's the one who grabbed the noose and was like, let's hang her. She was played by Beth Peters. She was in the movie Back to School, 22 episodes of General Hospital. We also had a townsman in this scene, R. Leo Scribner. He was in one episode of Newhart and an episode of Freddy's Nightmares.
Okay.
We have one uncredited actress, which I'm confused by. I don't know when we see her, but it's Beth Alward. Beth Alward, who was in the first episode.
Yes.
In the first episode, she was also uncredited. She was Delta, the police secretary.
Okay.
But now she's listed as someone named Sarah.
Okay.
Also uncredited. So I'm confused by that. Why is she getting two different? Why is she two different people?
Oh, I don't know.
And who is Sarah? Because we never heard the name Sarah, as far as I noticed.
Right. Was she in that sheriff scene that we saw? Because it was the only.
I was listening, for the name Sarah, to, like somebody to say it, but I never heard it. I could have missed it.
Gotcha.
But yeah, I don't know if Delta's maybe a nickname and Sarah's her real name, or is she supposed to be Delta's daughter, Sarah? I don't know.
Right. Huh. All right.
I don't know, but the same actress was there.
Okay.
And let's see. That's, I think, everything I got.
All right. Anything else to say before concluding?
I'm just really excited to talk about how the story wraps up.
Yes.
And because we keep speculating about all these things, but I haven't actually watched it recently.
Right.
So I'm excited to watch it again and, take these detailed notes and then tie it all together. Maybe I'll even find something I didn't notice before that we're digging it apart so deep now.
All right.
Because I know there's things that you are going to be, new for you.
Yes.
As you're watching it with new eyes.
Right. Yeah. Having learned the things that I've learned.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Good stuff. All right. We'd like to hear from you. What you think of this podcast? What you think of this episode? Do you have any theories about this episode? Stacie can be reached at.
We reached on Twitter, X, Instagram, Threads, and Blue Sky at TV and Coupon Talk.
All right. So my side of things, my side of things is a little messed up here as far as my social media is concerned because I got the boot from Facebook for reasons unknown. Currently trying to work that situation out. So if you were a friend of mine, or if my Corn Productions group still exists, I'm just not involved right now. So you can still join that, and Stacie, of course, will be managing that in my absence.
Yeah, I added Brian as an admin.
Okay.
So as I realized, so when your thing happened, all of your posts disappeared.
Oh wow.
The pictures from the group disappeared because you're the one who added them. So I was like, I bet if I wasn't listed as a second admin, the whole group would have disappeared.
Probably.
So I went, we should have a second person. So I added him so that, hey, you never know, if I disappear too, the group won't disappear.
Right.
Advice to everybody out there, have backup admins for all of your groups and pages.
So, if you had me as a friend on Facebook, sorry you can't reach me there at the moment. But
as well as Instagram.
Yes, yeah.
All things meta.
Yep. But I am still on Twitter at Core Productions. I am going to try do more with Blue Sky, actually making an effort to be there a little bit more with my social media. So you can find me there. I think I'm K Productions there. I guess I'll just put a link to that.
It's on our link tree.
Okay, it is. Okay, so if you like this video and want to support the channel, you can do those things. You can buy me a coffee. You can join the Corn Productions membership for 99 cents a month, starting at 99 cents a month. And of course, you can like, share, and comment on this video as well as subscribe to the channel. This is Dave and Stacie from Corn Productions, signing off.